If you operate commercially in the UK, you may have recently fallen foul of new airspace rules that came into effect earlier this month. Multiple reports of operators being denied permission to fly have been seen, particularly from Southampton. There is a great deal of confusion for both commercial and hobby flyers. Some model flying clubs that existed before airfields were planted near them have been grounded. Rupert Benbrook of Altitude Angel, speaking at the Madrid World Air Traffic Management Congress just last week, gave us a glimpse of what the future UK permission system for flying on or near airfields might look like. Altitude Angel is already in some NatSops rooms, and you can notify your flights via the Guardian Angel app or Mission Planner if flying with Ardupilot. Is it a brave new world of registration and remote ID just around the corner, or just more confusion? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to join us 2100 GMT every Tuesday for our Drone Stuff This Week chat of nonsense.
I'm here at the stand with Frequentis and Altitude Angel, demonstrating our integration between UTM and ATM. For Altitude Angel, that means three things. The first is situational awareness. So over here on this screen, we have Frankfurt Airport with a simulated radar feed. And in that simulated radar feed, we also have a number of simulated drones. So you can see here, we have a drone here, and that's currently outside controlled airspace. And so that drone is green because it's doing good things. But over here, we have a drone that's currently inside the controlled airspace, but doesn't have a flight plan. And so that drone is currently red. But as that drone flies out of controlled airspace, you will see, as part of this demo, you see that drone go green. And the reason for that is we believe a big part of what UTM is about is bringing together multiple surveillance and telemetry sensors, bringing together a single picture of what's going on in the air, knowing there's a thing in the air there, and then crucially, understanding whether or not that thing in the air is supposed to be there or not, and combining that with our flight rules and flight authorization system. And that brings me to the next part. So what we've set up for the demo here is we've created a rule around the Frankfurt controlled airspace here that allows particular operators who are approved to submit flight plans and have them automatically approved. But also when they enter the airspace, when those operators request access to the airspace, that has to be approved by air traffic control on a Frequentis SmartStrip system. So let's go through the process of that right now. Here I have an iPad with the Guardian application installed on it. And again, we're looking at Frankfurt Airport. Let's imagine that I'm doing an on-airfield inspection, maybe a threshold inspection, something like that. So let's submit a flight plan somewhere on the airfield. As I said before, we have a rules already set up that the operator I'm signed into this application as has permission to submit flight plans automatically. It warns me that I'm obviously in the controlled airspace of Frankfurt Airport. And now I need to fill some details in about that flight. So when am I flying? I'm going to fly now. How long am I flying? Is this a commercial flight? Yes, I'm inspecting the runway. Let's fill some details in here about that flight. And again, that's to help the situational awareness before the flight to understand what the intent of the flight was. And then I fill in a mobile number here to understand so that we can enable some of the communication scenarios that we have during the demo. And then finally, we have some details about the drone. Now, normally this would come from a drone registration system, so it'd be serial numbers or ICAO numbers, something like that, about the telemetry that the drone was going to be giving off. But for the purposes of the demo, we have that information in the app. So when I create a flight report, as I said, our rule should automatically give us approval for that flight. There we go, our flight plan is approved. And then if we go back over here to our situational awareness display, you can see that that flight plan has now been put onto the display. And over here, we also have the details of that flight plan with my pilot name and that phone number that I just entered into that flight plan. So I've submitted the plan for flight. Next thing to do is to actually get going and enter the airspace. So let's go back to the iPad here and manage my flight reports. So I'll go to that flight report and I'm going to manage it. There we go, and I'm going to start a flight. Again, we reconfirm that mobile number because sometimes you can have a different operator flying the flight from planning the flight. And let's enter that airspace. And as I said, the rule at the moment, there we go. The rule is that we actually need to get permission from the flight strip system, so our permission is pending. We don't currently have permission for that flight. So let's go over to the smart strip system over here. So you can see on the smart strip system, we have a strip that has appeared. That strip has an ID on it and a number of buttons that enables me to approve or decline that flight. And over here on the iPad, you can see the ID on the strip and the ID on the iPad matches. And over on the situational awareness display, you can also see that the telemetry for the drone has started as well, because we've started that flight, and the ID for that drone and the ID for the strip and the ID for the flight all match up. And this helps kind of connect all the dots with the flight that's going on. So if we go back to the smart strip system, let's approve that flight. So to do that, all I need to do, press on the tick, that moves into our accepted UAVs panel, and now that flight is accepted. And you can see on the iPad, we also have a pop-up notification saying permission granted for that flight. So if we go back to the situational awareness display, you can see here that the drone is actually, because it's currently flying outside its flight plan, it's gone yellow. And so that means whilst it might have permission to fly, it's out of the conditions that have been set as part of that flight plan. And so it's turning yellow. When that drone, because this is a simulated radar feed, when that drone flies into that flight area, that drone would go green again. The next part of what we can show you here as well is we actually have the ability for air traffic controllers to send commands to that drone digitally rather than by voice as they would normally do. And that, again, we do go on the smart strip system. So let's imagine this scenario: an air traffic controller would like the drone to hold where it is. Maybe there's an aircraft going across a taxiway or something like that, and it needs to hold its position. Over on the smart strip system here, we have a number of buttons that enable us to send those commands to the drone operator. So for the hold, let's press the hold button here. That hold button latches to orange, saying I have sent a command to the drone operator. And then over on the iPad, in just a moment, we should get a notification here saying, yes, you have been instructed by your flight approver to hold. If I press that notification, you can see I get to a screen that enables us to say whether or not I accept or reject that instruction. In this case, I'm going to accept the instruction. That sends our response back to the flight controller, to air traffic control. Our strip over here turns green. And similarly, in the situational awareness display, if we were green in the flight plan, we would go yellow during the instruction, and then we would go green again when we accepted that instruction, or we would stay yellow if that instruction was rejected. So the final part of this scenario actually is as part of the flight planning process, when the strip came through to the flight controller, that mobile number that we entered into the iPad right at the beginning also flowed through to the flight strip. And so that also means on the flight strip, even if the digital instructions aren't sufficient, we can actually have a voice conversation with that drone pilot too. And to do that, all we need to do is press the dial button on the strip. When I do that, the Frequentis VCS system kicks off. I can pick up the phone, accept the call, and be in contact with that drone operator and ask more details about the flight.